Hi, welcome back to Not Your Mother's Hobbies. Today we are looking at, I guess, our first miniature since finishing Hero Quest. We're going to take a real big departure and build this little guy. This is the Ox King's vehicle. Now, if you've seen my hobby knitting circles before, you might remember this from a previous video. We're building it and painting it today. You can see that it comes in two sprues, and we're going to have to cut this bad boy up and put them all together. So thankfully I've got my handy dandy nippers here, and yeah, we're gonna get to it. And there you go. Real quick smash cut, and you can see exactly what this is looking like, all built. I just did a quick and dirty zenithal on all these guys. Emphasis on the dirty, very poor weather for spray can, rattle can zenithal. Thought I could get away with it. Turns out I couldn't, so we'll make do. You can see here I've masked off this part, that is the windshield, but we'll put that together once we're finished painting. We're going to start things off with the vehicle. We're just going to put Skeleton Horde pretty much on this whole thing. You would have noticed previously that we had some colored plastic, and that's because this is a push-fit model, though I did glue it all together, and all the pieces are meant to be representing basically the colors that they should. Minimal painting, I guess, in this kit. But we're going to paint the whole thing and kind of do it our own. So we're going to hit this all over with Skeleton Horde. Not really being too clean, because we're going to do some things to sort of smooth it out. Besides, it's a car. You know, it's going to get hit with rocks and dirt and weather, and it'll end up looking all beat up and weathered anyway. It'll add a little bit of grime to it. So dry brushing all over here now with Wraithbone just to lighten it up. You can see it's getting a little dusty. That is a-okay. We're going to smooth it out a little bit later and kind of bring everything together. You can see that I am doing this in a sub-assembly, and that's because I really want the characters to pop. Otherwise, I would have just done everything black, and we would have just painted what we've seen. But I really want those characters to stand out. Now we're hitting these door panels and those front machine guns with this wildwood here. And I end up doing 2 coats because I want this to go on very smooth, or at least a lot smoother than it appears here. You can get a very much smoother coat of speed paint by mixing it with speed paint medium, or shooting it through an airbrush. 2 things I chose not to do, as I instead was thinking to build up the color with just layers and whatnot, and any texture we'd have would end up looking like weathering. And so we're doing some of that here by dry brushing that Blood Reaver flesh on top. And that's going to give us a nice soft highlight on these doors and those machine guns. And we'll just build that up even further here with Night Quester flesh. Stippling and stabbing. You can see now we have these nice soft highlights coming up on these door panels and those little machine gun bits. Now I might not have thinned down any contrast paint with contrast medium, but I am thinning down this Agrathrax Earthshade with about a 2-to-1 ratio of contrast medium to Earthshade. And we're going to put that all around real thick and heavy. You don't have to go as thick and heavy as I am. But by adding that contrast medium in here, it's going to break up the surface tension and allow it to smooth out very nicely and settle in the cracks as well. So we'll have a nice, smoother, more uniform look than our smudgy one before. And we're putting this Basilicanum Gray on all the metal bits, and I chose the interior, or the majority of the interior, to be all kind of metal. We're not going to worry about metallics on this one. Instead, we're going to do everything with just normal standard matte paints. Now, because that Agrax Earthshade darkens some things down a little bit, we are going to go back with that Night Quester flesh and bring up those door panels and that machine gun. I'm using gray cedar here. Like I mentioned, we're not going to be doing any metallics or true metallics, and instead we're going to do some more rough matte metal by doing dry brushing of this gray instead. Now we did leave those seat backs blank because we are making them leather, and we're going to do that with a nice warm Gore-Grunt of fur or any other warm brown that you have that you can make some nice leather seats. Now while that's drying, we're going to use Bolt Titanium White and go over the headlights. We have 4 headlights on this little vehicle, not including the one that we will put on at the very end. And those are 2 on the front, 2 on the back. And then we're going to touch that up with Iyanden yellow to just give it some nice bright color. Now that those seats are dry, we're coming in with Deathclaw brown, and we're going to highlight those up as well as clean up some of that smudging and streaking that you can see that we have. I'm just going to smooth that out and just put a little couple layers to really make it pop up. Then we just hit those lights with some white highlights, and we're done. With the vehicle out of the way, we can start on these characters. We're going to do all 3 of them in our standard light flesh recipe. That's starting things off with Gulliman flesh and just going all around and blocking in those skin areas. When that's all done, we're going to use Black Templar and go around and handle the black areas. Goku's got all of his hair that is black, and Bulma has the bunny outfit that is black. That includes her bodysuit as well as those bunny ears. There's also some little bits and bobs, like some buttons on her little wrist decorations, as well as Oolong's suspenders that are also going to be black. Mixing it up now, we're going to use Luxion Purple for Goku's gi. He's had quite a few different colors of gi throughout his career. He's got a blue one, he's had an orange one. I'm matching the artwork on this one, so he's got his purple gi in here. Then Blood Angel's red, and we're going to use that just for our small red details. Bulma's got this little bow, and Goku has wrist straps and his Nyoi Boy extending pole. Bulma's hair, we're going to use Aethermatic Blue, and just put that all over her hair pretty liberally, as we want that to be very, very saturated. Back to Oolong, we're going to do his little muscle shirt or A shirt. And I chose to do Skeleton Horde instead of one of the other white tones because I felt it looked more sweaty and gross. But we're also going to use that on Goku's the rope that he has that connects his little Nyoi Boy that he can sling around him. We're using Orc Flesh for Oolong's pants, and that should be it for all of our blocking. With everything all blocked up and ready to go, we can now start the cleanup and the highlights. Getting in here first with Cadian Flesh Tone, there's a lot to clean up on these guys. There's a lot of very smooth surfaces that ends up pooling. And combine that with my really poor Zenithal, there's a lot to clean up. So you can see how if you just make mistakes, just paint right over it. Just keep at going. So here you see it's very nice, smoothed out, very taken care of. We have fixed it. We're course corrected for sure. Using Kislev Flesh here to do our first true highlight, and just going all around on those shoulders and raised areas, and putting that first 50 to 60% highlight. And I chose to do this in a couple very thin coats so that I could really bring up the smoothness as well as the brightness. Then we finish up our skin with Pallid Witch Flesh. On Oolong here, it's going to be a nice greasy, shiny ham highlight. We're just going to go all around, hitting those very high points and making them pop. Now, because these are anime characters, there's a lot of round and smooth surfaces. So thin coats built up over time for this kind of miniature if you're trying to achieve the similar look that I am. Back to Oolong here, we're using Wraithbone to highlight up his grimy shirt. And again, just thin highlights going multiple layers and just building it up. Now Goku has this rope. I'm just dotting in details on the rope around his body and as well using that to highlight his belt. Using Dark Reaper here to start adding in some variation on Bulma's black outfit, on her bunny outfit. A little bit of diagonal highlights on the ears, as well as some body highlights. Then Rizian Gray afterwards, just some little dots and stripes and slashes to add some extra detail to her outfit. Now the extra touches, we're going to do Bulma's makeup. She doesn't have any makeup in the picture, but you know me, I like to add a little bit of makeup for my females, so we put that Cardboard Crimson for her bottom lip. Now Bold Titanium White, we're going to use this a lot, and first off, we're using it for Goku's hair. We're just going to add these little slash highlights on his hair, and just dotting it around, well I guess slashing it around, lining it around, but just adding those highlights to the edges of his hair. We're also doing highlights for Bulma's hair, just slashing down some thin lines and bringing out the detail there. Coming back with Aethermatic Blue, we're going to put in her eyes, and it might look like she's going to be cross-eyed at first, but that Akira Toriyama style ends up having those big old eyes for the females very close together. We've got Oolong's eyebrows there with the Gundam marker, as well as using it for all the eyes. And there we have it, complete with a quick little scenic base, using the colors of Dragon Ball, green and orange. We also have a little flight stand in there that I made, just using some of the transparent sprue that came with the Mini, and then some UV resin at the base, just to give it some strong adhesion to our Mini base. Everybody's all sitting pretty in there, and you can see the highlights that I did on the back of Bulma's head, the kind of more traditional anime circle, as well as what I chose to do on the back of Goku's head, which I thought looked more, it kind of matched more with what he had going on, which was fewer highlights, more, I think, cartoony highlights. I don't know, it just seemed that these little striations or little dashes fit better. Almost like Felix the Cat or something like that. You can also see more of that texture that I added to Bulma's outfit up on her rabbit ears as well. So this is overall another video showing you the kinds of things that you can do with all the techniques that we've been using so far. You can really paint anything that you want and end up with a final product that looks just as good. Especially if you have some artwork to match to, it is all the more easier. Thanks as always to the patrons, as well as everybody who watches, likes, subscribes, all that jazz. Everybody in the community here has made me feel comfortable painting whatever I want, however I want. Big thanks to you all. Bye-bye!